And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call Podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk. We're trying to stay dry on the East Coast. It's basically raining from South Carolina to upstate New York. A lot of topsy-turvy weather predictions over the next couple days. Cancellation at Saratoga today. They are trying to run tomorrow. Some rescheduled races. Some races from Saturday moved to Sunday. Down at Colonial Downs, they've canceled racing for the first part of their racing week and moved the Arlington Million card to Sunday. So we've got a lot of things in flux, Jeff, a lot of balls in the air and a lot of rain in the air on the East Coast. But I know out there at Del Mar, the turf and surf will meet with sunny skies, maybe a little marine layer, the worst thing you got to worry about.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. I mean, that's a hardship, dealing with that marine layer, and the lack of rain. But no, I feel for the people back east because, everybody. I mean, wherever you are, if it's raining, it seems like it never stops, and it's really playing havoc with the racing, with cancellations and races being put back a week or two, or races being carted on 2 different days, figuring out which day will be better. We don't even know that. And then horses cross-centered everywhere. So it makes for a difficult handicapping challenge, at least until such time as we know who's running where. But we'll give it our best. Some really good races, which is kind of too bad. I mean, this is one weekend where you're going to get top turf racing. You just have to hope that the weather cooperates, and it seems more often than not it doesn't. But we'll deal with what we can and go over some of these races and look forward to them.
Here's the weather forecast for Saratoga. Rain's supposed to continue tonight through about 10 o'clock Eastern. And then, for Saturday, weather looks good for Saturday. Sunday, a chance of showers, but a better part of the week to come for sure at Saratoga. At Colonial, the rain continues today and is supposed to taper off. Saturday and Sunday, just a 20-25% chance of rain each day. So we're looking good for Sunday at Colonial Downs now. High temps in the 80s there in the Richmond, Virginia area at New Kent at Colonial Downs. So that's all the weather we're going to talk about for the beginning of the show. It's going to come up as we talk about some of these races, maybe an off-the-turf scenario or something like that as we handicap. But we want to talk horse racing now. So here is our schedule of races. Jeff and I will handicap over the next 30 minutes or so for the benefit of those of you watching on YouTube or on X. Be sure to retweet this out, post some comments if you will, like it on YouTube. Be sure to help us build the audience. For those of you listening on our traditional audio podcast channels, here are the 8 races Jeff and I have lined up. At Saratoga on Saturday, we will handicap the Saratoga Special, the Troy, and the Galway. Those final 2 races, turf sprints. So fingers crossed there in terms of grass course conditions. On Saturday at Del Mar, we'll handicap the Sorrento for the 2-year-old fillies and the Yellow Ribbon in the filly and mare turf division. To Sunday, we go then for the rescheduled Grade 1 duo at Saratoga, the 4-Star Dave and the Saratoga Derby Invitational. Announced yesterday that they will run these races on Sunday at the end of the card. That will not impact the multi-race wagers on Sunday. They'll be run as 2 separate events, the 4-Star Dave and the Saratoga Derby. And then Sunday at Colonial Downs, the rescheduled Arlington Million, originally slated for Saturday, pushed back on Wednesday by good early call from the Colonial Downs team there. Arlington Million coming up on Sunday. If you like to play handicapping tournaments, big weekend. We've got a couple qualifiers for you at Del Mar this weekend. We've got week 4, the Fun in the Sun handicapping tournament from Saratoga and Del Mar, and also the $300 Made in Minnesota Challenge big stakes night at Canterbury Park coming up on Saturday. You can play that tournament at expressbet.com. Be sure to go to expressbet.com/tournaments and check out the full slate of action. One note about that Fun in the Sun handicapping tournament: each week it's the final 5 races on the card at Saratoga, the first 5 races on the card at Del Mar. That means with the cancellations this week, it'll be races 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12 at Saratoga. 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. Final 5 races that they're going to run on the Saturday card at Saratoga. That's part of the Fun in the Sun handicapping tournament. Progressive jackpot for the final table on Labor Day is now $12,887 with $10,000 seated from ExpressBet. So the final table, the group's starting to build in that Fun in the Sun handicapping tournament. We are 3 of the 7 qualifying weeks in, so 15 of the seats have been secured. 20 seats remain to qualify for that $12,000 plus tournament right now. And congratulations last week, Stephen Jones, winner of week number 3 in Fun in the Sun. All right, Jeff, we're going to have some fun in sun at Saratoga. It's going to be sunny on Saturday. That's what we're hoping for. The Saratoga Special kicks off our stakes handicapping. It's race number 8 on the card Saturday at the Spa, grade 2. You know, it's 6.5 furlongs. It's early in the year as 2-year-olds go here in early August. But this race has a lot of history, we know, going back. But even in recent history, not only do you get some great sprinters like Henny Hughes, Jackie's Warrior win this race, but we've seen classic winners win this race like Union Rags and Exaggerator in recent years. So this truly can be a series for sprinters and horses who go on to some classic aspirations. So let's talk Saratoga Special on Saturday.
I think this is a pretty good race for sure, but when you handicap 6.5 for 2-year-olds at this time of the year, it's kind of a breaking point for some of these. Some of these are very quick. They can look great going 5, 5.5, even maybe 6, but 6.5, you better be a pretty mature and seasoned colt if it's possible. And that's why I was looking at number 9, Keep It Easy, as my top selection. Now, again, this is a race that needs to be handicapped by projection because some of these aren't going to be at their best at this trip. I think Keep It Easy, though, will be. In fact, he's a colt by Hard Spun and out of a mare by English Channel. Should be a miler and should be a grass horse. But after being given a race in his debut at Churchill, he came back and produced a significant forward move. I would say improving your buyer number by 33 points qualifies as significant. And he had speed. He faded in his first start, much, much stronger. He's a big, good-looking, strong, powerful colt. Actually looks more like a dirt horse than a turf horse. And from where he's drawn on the outside in the 9-hole, out 9 of 9, he's got a chance to kind of, I don't know, measure the race. Go if you have to, or sit outside in the clear, move when you want to move. He's 4-1 in the morning line, and based on what I saw at Churchill, I think he's got a chance to step forward again and then maybe come right back and win again.
For everyone who complains, they knew when a horse breaks his maiden impressively. They didn't know about Keep It Easy. 23-1 when he won this one, second time out for Dale Romans.
And is sneaking through underneath as they roll off the turn. Keep It Easy puts away Sandman. 3-length lead heading for the 8th pole. Tap into this, comes off the rail, up into second. Normandy Coast is racing third. Final furlong now. Keep It Easy clear by 3.5. Tap into this, chasing Keep It Easy past a 16th pole, and Keep It Easy wins by 3. Tap into this was second. Voodoo Daddy
$435,000 purchase, most expensive colt in the field for the Saratoga Special. Let's go to the Troy Stakes. It'll be next up on the card. Races 8 and 9, stakes back-to-back Saturday at the Spa. Race number 9, the Troy, grade 2, $300,000, 5.5 furlong turf sprint. And again, with the rains that we've had during the course of this week, they moved the long races on the turf, off the turf to Saturday to Sunday. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep these on the grass, Jeff. Let's assume that they are grass races. Does it run through Cogburn? We talked about this horse last week because the Troy was supposed to be a week ago, moved back a week, but if he maintains his form from what we've seen in the last 2, you'd have to think it doesn't matter which week they run him.
Not only that, but even if it is wet, which it will be, I just hope they leave it on the turf or find that it's usable. Cogburn won't be disadvantaged, I don't think, by whatever ground he's going to run against. And, of course, in the Jaipur last time out, he ran the fastest 5.5 in the history of racing that we know of, going 59-4, and did that on obviously firm ground. But before that, in the turf sprint at Churchill over well, they called it good. I thought it was a little bit slower than that, but maybe not. Anyway, he handled that just fine. So he's run 2 types of races in a row now, 2 winning grass sprints, both of which would be good enough to win the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. And that's the kind of form he's in. I was curious as to why Steve would be running him. Steve Asmussen running in this, race grade 2. It's just maybe he needs to run. Most trainers would have put him away and then just gear him up again for the fall. But Steve Asmussen decides he'd rather keep him in his present form, which is running him. I hope everything works out for him over the soggy ground he's certainly going to have to deal with. But he is so good right now. That tells me that he's doing good. There's no way they would be running him unless they thought he needed to run, and so I think he will. He's obviously not a gamble at 1 to 2 in the morning line, but Cogburn, he's an exciting horse. He's going to be, based on what we saw in his last 2 races, a favorite for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and he should go about his business and beat this field.
He's been off 2 months, so it's not like they're running back super quick. And if they want to wait for the Breeders' Cup after this, they're going to have, a similar time span until we get to the first week in November. So this might just be the right place on the calendar to get him from June's Jaipur until the Breeders' Cup. He was amazing last time out, as you mentioned, in world record time.
8 lengths to make up, rounding the far turn. In front of No Name Mets, Mischief Magic. They went 21-1 for the opening quarter, and Thin White Duke is at the back of the field. They have to catch Cogburn, who turns for home loaded with a 3-length advantage. He's running powerfully. Coppola is racing in second. A wall of horses trying to get through, including Star of Mystery. And on the outside, Arzak is finding his best stride. Center of the course, Mischief Magic, but Cogburn dominates the Jaipur, wins by 4.5. It's a 3-way photo for second, including.
So when we talk about this horse, if it's back on a soft turf, last year in the Troy, it was soft turf. He's a defending champ, could get same kind of conditions. Mentioned last week, and I think it still rings true. Big Invasion's awfully good at Saratoga. The last race was a bit of a wake up in the form of this runner. I think Big Invasion's probably the horse for the exact if you're looking at a horse who's won the Nearctic last year on yielding turf at Woodbine. So conditions there may not hurt Big Invasion. If they happen to rain this sucker off and it goes to the main track, Cogburn used to be a dirt horse, and he was pretty good dirt horse. They just found he's a freak on the turf. I don't know if the timing towards the Breeders' Cup means you want to get a run in. Maybe they go ahead and run him main track only, Jeff, if this race would happen to wash off. If it is about the spacing and the timing, he'll get as much out of the race on the dirt towards the Breeders' Cup as he would if they happen to run it on the turf. So maybe he stays in it either way. You got Disarmed. You've got Surveillance listed in here as main track only. The race really would absolutely change up, obviously, if we go to a main track only situation. But if you had Cogburn and the race got washed off, would you run him or no?
I wouldn't. Well, I'd mess it up. I mean, yeah,
Right.
It would be different if it was a grade 1, but
Yeah.
I mean, in this horse, and he is a stallion prospect. He also was the son of one of the hottest stallions in the world right now, not this time. I mean, he's got a future. And at age 5, I doubt he's going to be doing much running after this year anyway. So, I mean, the key to this horse is winning the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Do everything that you can to make sure he gets there in the finest, sharpest form he can be. And running him in an off-the-turf, maybe off-track race in a grade 3, I wouldn't do it, but that's just me.
Right. Right.
I don't need it,
Yeah, I agree. And there are some other options. I mean, you don't want to run him too close to the Breeders' Cup and then have him come back quick, but there are options. But in a month of September, you could go Turf Monster at Parks. The Nearctic race we just talked about up at Woodbine would be a potential race where you could get that spacing, and you don't have to wait like for the Shakertown or something like that at Woodford. At I think it's Shakertown in the fall at Keeneland, and you're so close to the Breeders' Cup that way.
The other thing is, there's a $750,000 race here prior to the Breeders' Cup, a prep, the Eddie D. They've moved that money, that race up, and it's a month before. So, I mean, this isn't the most important race in the world. You can get, if you need a prep, there'll be preps. You can find one.
That's the Troy Stakes Saturday at Saratoga, race number 9. The sister race literally to that for the Philly turf sprinters is the Galway, named for a neighboring town of Saratoga, $150,000 Galway. These are just 3-year-old fillies, though, restricted to the 3-year-old fillies in this particular spot. And Star of Mystery, Jeff, is coming off a win in the Quick Call, ran in the Jaipur. Was running open company males the last 2 races since coming to the U.S. for trainer Charlie Appleby. Now Star of Mystery gets like the double restriction, now against 3-year-olds only and against fillies only. This is a massive class drop.
Yeah, she just ran so well when she won the Quick Call. And then certainly her race in the Jaipur was good as well. I was looking over her form to see how she would do on really soft ground, heavy ground. She never ran out over there. I mean, you can't. Everything is good to Furman. So maybe she would be one that would be eligible to come out if Charles Appleby doesn't think that she's really good on soft, or maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. But she's also 2 to 5 on the morning line. So once again, it's a situation where, I mean, what do you do with her? I mean, you can find in Koldeck the Exacta if you can find somebody who you might think will run second. Right. I looked if you had to do it. I'm not saying she's going to be any great price, and I don't like her to win. But Pipsy, who was so impressive in the U.S. debut, sprinting from off the pace on good ground, then they tried her long, which was a logical thing to do, and she hit a wall at the quarter pole. She just did not want to run long, and she wasn't real happy about doing it early on. But I think that they figured out she's a late running turf sprinter, and this is her condition. I don't think she's anywhere near as good a Star of Mystery, but she's good enough to rally and be second. So you might want to consider that if you want to play the race.
William Walden, trainer of Pipsy, gets Irad Ortiz to ride here. Walden's horses have run off the screen a couple times we've seen up at the Saratoga meet. They are firing right now, but they all have to beat Star of Mystery. Let's go back and take a look at her win in the quick call last time against older males.
At the back, American Rascal and Fandom. No Name Mets has company, Mansa Musa. And here comes Star of Mystery, unleashed and blowing on by. Star of Mystery, strutting her stuff in the quick call, presented by the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. A classy victory by 2.5.
Let's now take our attention to Del Mar on Saturday, where we've got the 6 furlong Sorrento Stakes first up. These are 2-year-old fillies on the path towards the Del Mar Debutante and potentially the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies later this year at Del Mar. So local prep here that will certainly have some impact on the trail towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. Jeff Siegel, we've got a field of 5, including 2 Bob Bafferts in here that were highly impressive. We talked about Kazaloo, Nooney. These are horses who are on part of our Stars of Tomorrow segment. I know we had Kazaloo featured a couple weeks ago when she won July 21st. A month before that, Nooney broke her maiden at Santa Anita. 2 big Bafferts in here. Obviously, you got Vodka with a Twist for Phil D'Amato, who won the debutante on the road at Churchill Downs. In fact, this horse has run 3 times, all in Kentucky. Will be the first West Coast swing since coming to the Phil D'Amato barn. White Sands in this race beat the boys last time out for trainer Wesley Ward by 13 lengths in the Prairie Gold Juvenile. So just a field of 5, but there's a little meat on the bone in this race. This is a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, White Sands, I watched both of her races, and she looked like a ruffian, but then you realize she's running against horses probably worth about 20. So she's coming up through the ranks, but I'm not even sure she's running because she was entered back on Sunday against the boys. And I would say that from where she's drawn, I would run her. But Nooney is better than anything that she'd have to run against tomorrow, I think. So we'll see if what Wesley Ward decides to do. And of course, Bob's got 2 really good prospects in Nooney and Kazaloo. I mean, you know, they're both speed horses. You'd hate to run against each other in a race like this and have them both duel each other into defeat. Because I'm not so sure which is quicker, the 2. But I think if I had to say, and I'm thinking that you know, Juan Hernandez is saying it for me. Of the 2, Nooney is the better of the 2.
Right.
He rode them both and opts for Nooney. And if you get a chance, you know, you might want to check out her recent workout. She looks unbelievably spectacular, Nooney. But she was spectacular in her maiden win as well. And when you give $1.2 million for a freshman sire like Win, you're buying the individual, not necessarily the pedigree. And these guys don't make too many mistakes. So I think she is the goods. How far she'll run, we'll find out later on. But unless she does something stupid from the rail, I think Nooney will wire the field.
Yeah, and her pedigree doesn't suggest that she's not going to be a Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly prospect. Win, won around 2 turns. She's out of a Union Rags mare, so we'll see how far she can go. But she was certainly fleet on her feet at the Ocala sale, and even fleeter in her career debut.
And Nooney running away from the competition. She's in front by 7 lengths and putting on a show. Juan Hernandez looks back and he realizes this is lights out. Nooney won it right out of the gate. And here she comes through the stretch. Welcome to the racing world, Nooney. She wins by 10 lengths in a gallop. She's my flame. Lee's baby girl.
So, Jeff, what's interesting, I think, about this race, the Sorrento, is there are 7 victories on paper from this field of 5. All 7 of them wire to wire. Something's got to give. It's going to be a fun race to watch over 6 furlongs. Again, as they prep towards that 7/8 of a mile Del Mar debutante coming up.
I tell you what, Jeremy, I wouldn't want to be messing with her at this stage of the career. You've got whoever you have, you got a nice filly. You don't need to run against Nooney. Find somebody a little easier, you know. And she, like I say, she's worked just unbelievably since that race. She's a powerful, strong filly. Not exactly fully extended, I would say. She was under wraps from the 3/16 pole of the wire, which is why if you're trying to evaluate these 2-year-olds, you better watch the races because she earned a 78 buyer. I do not think that is her maximum number. I think she can do better.
Let's move now to Del Mar's 8th race on Saturday. Feature race on the card, the Grade 2 Yellow Ribbon. This is a $200,000 race in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf Division. A mile and a 16th here. You would say maybe these fillies would stretch out to the Filly and Mare Turf or cut back to the mile. Could go either direction with some of these when we talk about Breeders' Cup implications. Trainer Phil D'Amato's got 3 of the 6 entries in the box, but what a strange meet it's been for Phil D'Amato at Del Mar, Jeff. I was looking at the BetMix database. 45 starters on the turf coming into this week's racing. 4 wins for Phil D'Amato. 4 for 45 on the turf. I mean, that's his game. That's his MO, and he's got half the field in here. So I don't know. I mean, does it turn around for Phil D'Amato, or does he, continue to search for the right feel on the grass?
I got an observation about that. Thinking about this, and I didn't know the exact stats, but Phil made his mark with turf horses from Europe. He was buying these cheaper horses, and everybody said, including me, boy, this guy's a genius. He's the West Coast Chad Brown, So he had all these horses that were offered to him and given to him, and now he's got a lot of turf horses, but not very good. They just aren't. It's not that he's forgetting how to train. He just accepted these grass horses from Europe. They were kind of cheap, most of them, and now he's a victim of his own success, and he's got to run 2 or 3 against each other, or sometimes just to get races into him. So he's going to pile up a lot of losses because he can only win one of them. So I don't think, I'm not worried about him, but if he's going to try to beat Anna Set, he's going to have to do with it. He's going to have to try to do that with better horses than he's got in that division right now. I mean, if these horses are Uncorks of the world and whatever else we have here, Lucky Girl, Bellable. I mean, they're not Group 2 horses. They just aren't,
Right.
But what are you going to do with them? There's only so many allowance races that will fill for you, and you can only run so many of them in the same race. So I if you're trying to handicap this race the way, and I made the morning line here, and I didn't want to make Anisette 3 to 5, but I did because there was no other option really.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any second choice that would grab money. Whether or not you think Anisette is worth 3 to 5 is another matter, but I think that's what she's going to be. A lot of 1s next to her name. She's perfect at Del Mar. She came back off a layoff, which was actually in the plans. It was not a forced layoff. I would want to just give her the winter off and then bring her back for the second half. Training well, ran well. I don't know. I mean, this is your race of the week, right? And because of that, and because you have just been on fire in the last month or two, I'm going to let you take this race and tell me if Anisette is beatable, and if so, how do you play the race?
Well, I don't think she is. I mean, you mentioned the fact that some of these are struggling to prove their Grade 2 Grade 2 horses. She's the multiple Grade 1 winner, the Gamely, the Del Mar Oak. She's the best of the West, no question, especially when you talk about these kind of distances, mile and a 16th, mile and an 8th, even up to a mile and a quarter. She's awfully, awfully good. I don't think she gets touched in here. Umberto Rispoli's won this race on the favorite the last 2 years in a row, probably be 3 in a row here. And Rispoli's riding 25% on the turf at the current meet. So we talked about Phil D'Amato's struggles. He's got 3 in here. Rispoli's riding the turf exceptionally well. He rides for Leonard Powell in this particular spot. And Anisette just doesn't miss, Jeff. She's 9 in a row in the exacta. And, the rest of these horses, if you look at their Del Mar records, are 1 for 13 at Del Mar. She's 2 for 2 over the track at Del Mar. So I think she's just going to stand out in this particular spot. How do we make any money off of it? It's the race of the week because of all the uncertain weather around the country. We went west thinking that we could find something safe out there. But just like we did in the West Virginia Derby last week, there was a big favorite in that spot with Dragoon Guard and not the largest field size. You got to connect on the exacta. You got to limit your combinations and see if you can't hit something in here. I think Bella Bell's the most logical horse for the exacta because there's not much space in this race at all. She's going to go to the front under Kazushi Kimura and try to take him as far as she can. She was second in the Del Mar Oaks, won the San Clemente back in 2022 over this racetrack. So, she likes it at Del Mar. We talked about some of the struggles at Del Mar amongst the other horses in here. It looks to me like, she's a miler. A mile and a 16th is going to be the big question with Bella Bell. All 4 of her career wins have come at the mile distance. So I think she sets the pace, but I think she succumbs to Anisette. The other one in here I thought who was kind of interesting, and we talk about this a couple times in various races that we've handicapped, but I like the form cycle for Ever Smart. We call it an old school form cycle. And when you get a trainer like Neil Drysdale and you add old school to it, it just makes sense. But this is sprint the route second off the layoff, right? The old school trainers would bring a horse off a long layoff, run them shorter than their best, and then have them ready for the second time out. Ever Smart didn't run great in the Daisy Cutter at Del Mar, but she ran decent enough, close some ground. She wasn't supposed to be any good at 5 furlongs. Now she gets 2 turns. So I think Ever Smart with Mike Smith aboard could be the other half of the exact. I'll take Anisette over Bella Bell and over Ever Smart. Keep the combinations low. Try to hammer both those combinations and see if you can't get out of there with a little bit of a profit. I don't think it's a huge profit race, but if you're going to score in this race, I'd look 2-5, 2-6.
Makes sense to me.
All right, we'll switch gears then and go to Saratoga on Sunday. These are rescheduled races, originally carded for Saturday this week and now moved to Sunday. The 4-Star Dave and the Saratoga Derby Invitational will be run at the end of the card on Sunday. So at Saratoga, the 4-Star Dave on Sunday will be race 10 on your program. So let's talk about that race now. Master of the Seas is a scratch in there for Charlie Appleby, looking for last year's Breeders' Cup Mile winner. Maybe the Woodbine Mile might be the first race back this year after skipping this race at Saratoga over the weekend. Fear not for Appleby. He also has Ottoman Fleet in here, a winner of the Wise Dan and the Arlington in his last 2 starts. You got Carl Spackler in here for Chad Brown, a horse who a lot of folks have thought might be grade 1 quality. He's going to get his first grade 1 attempt of his career, coming off a win last time out in the Kelso Stakes. But I know you've got your eye on one who hasn't been around at the racetrack very long. More Than Looks was so impressive at the end of last year for Cherie DeVoe. What do you think of his chances coming back here in the seasonal debut?
He was starting to get really good, as you mentioned, More Than Looks last year. He started off and it looked like it was going to be a nice horse, but nothing spectacular. He kind of started getting good, though, back in the summer. He won the Manila, 3rd in the Hall of Fame. A very nice win after that at Churchill in the Jefferson Cup. And then I thought they were really reaching for the stars in the Breeders' Cup Mile. And he went from 13th to 6th in the final 1/8 of a mile, only got beat 2 lengths by Master of the Season. Right at that time, I thought he was really ready to pounce, but they put him away. He is trained really well for his comeback. I don't know whether this is the race that they would like to win, but off the bench. But he is a grade 1. It's got a lot of money on the pool. I don't think Cherie's giving him a race or anything like that. And the way he's been training, if he can pick up where he left off last year, now as a 4-year-old, there's no reason why he can't run with these horses, because on pure numbers, he's right there, or at least he was last year at the end of his campaign. So if he comes back a little bit bigger and stronger and a little sharper and a little more mature, I mean, he's right there with these horses. And man, I mean, he's going to drop over and he's going to make the last run, and he's going to need a little help up front. Who knows what about soft ground? I mean, he did run on good ground for whatever that's worth. But I 7-2 in the morning line. I respect Ottoman Fleet. Very, very good horse for Appleby. The rest of these, the Carl Spacklers of the world, they're good, but not unbeatable. I'm going to try More Than Looks and hope that he's ready. And if he is, he might be a really serious miler in this division if he comes back as well as I'm thinking that he might.
We're always trying to figure out in these 2-turn turf races exactly how the pace will go and if they'll just, canter all the way or if they're actually going to send. We know we have a speed horse on the rail here in Strong Quality. He's got so many ones, right? This one actually looks like it's going to lay out on paper the way that it should. Strong Quality's got speed. You got to think Ottoman Fleet's up there in the mix. Major Dude, those two kind of sit second, third. Carl Spackler somewhere towards the back. And More Than Looks might get that pace that he's looking for and might need in this spot. But this should be a good comeback race, a good tightener for him, and a horse who in the Breeders' Cup Mile division could be a factor again with a good run. All these horses, really, anybody who comes out of this race, the grade 1 4-star Dave, is going to be one of America's top Eastern hopefuls towards the Breeders' Cup Mile when we get out to Del Mar in the fall. So race number 10 on Sunday, again, will be the 4-star Dave. Race number 11 on Sunday. Again, races 10 and 11 at the end of the card on Sunday are not part of the late pick 4, late pick 5. They are separate events, not tied to the multi-race wagers Sunday at Saratoga because they were rescheduled, kind of if necessary situation, and they are necessary now to run on Sunday due to the course conditions this week. Mile and 3/16 for the Saratoga Derby Invitational. This race was originally carded for last week, rescheduled to this week, now moved to Sunday, 8 days beyond what it was originally slated for. Mile and 3/16 on the turf. It's race number 11 on the card. Jeff, we've got a couple horses out of the Belmont Derby coming back in this race. Royal Majesty was fourth, Legend of Time was third, and the winner that day was Trickery. Now, we don't know if Trickery is going to go here, or there are some reports that may go to Colonial for the Secretariat Stakes. But if Trickery is in this race, how do you measure up the chances of that one? And if he's not in the race, where else might you look?
Well, I looked at this race top to bottom, and I couldn't throw out any horse. I mean, literally, especially when you factor in the soft ground, you don't know who's going to like it and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
Pace situation looks soft, especially on soft ground. Izzy Dioro will probably try to go in front, and Trickery, if he were to stay here, would actually get a great trip. I would.
Yeah,
think.
he would get a good trip.
Outside box, he'd go on a mile and 3/16. He'd kind of drop over and get a great easy stalking trip, like he seems to want to get. I might be tempted just to keep him right here, quite frankly. And if he does, he's really tough to beat. He's thoroughly genuine. He knows how to win a photo. He's got the great tactical speed. I just think that. You can outthink yourself sometimes on this, but I like Trickery if he shows up, and if not, there's not a horse in this race I could toss out. It's like almost like whose turn is it? It's kind of weird that they would run the same type of race on the same weekend for the same age group, going long on the grass. I mean, this would be a great race if they kind of combine the two. I thought,
right.
But whatever it is, it is. Legend of Time. I thought he had a little trouble last time out, but he doesn't really quicken like a good horse. I mean, he's the ultimate grinder, really, And I thought he might be better than he actually is. Again, I'm not saying he couldn't win, but I don't think I would be betting him at 5-2. Trickery, maybe. I mean, Royal Majesty, they're all kind of the same, and now it's just a matter of who's going to like the soft ground.
We know one horse who does like soft ground is Fulmineo. It was a total bog Preakness weekend when he won the Jimmy Murphy against easier company for sure. Came back, beat a similar field at Colonial Downs the next time. Crystal Quest was runner-up in both of those. Big step up in class here, but certainly as course conditions go, a Fulmineo for Arnaud Delacar would certainly be happy with the soft they're going. But let's go back and take a look at that Belmont Derby, because even if Trickery doesn't stay and run in this race at Saratoga, the 3-4 finishers in here, Legend of Time and Royal Majesty, are back. Let's give the fans a listen and a look at that race, the Belmont Derby from July 6th.
He's just waiting for some room as they reach the top of the lane in the Belmont Derby, and White Palomino's trying to win it all the way. Trickery to the outside. Royal Majesty is keeping Legend of Time tucked in that spot, and now the leader is Trickery. It's Trickery who's put ahead in front. White Palomino's trying to come back. Legend of Time's got to pick it up from there. Nowhere to go. Trickery and John Velasquez almost home. White Palomino's going to try one final time here at the line. It's going to be a photo finish.
Good point you mentioned about the grinding style, because like you mentioned, Legend of Time had every chance in that race. Yes, hemmed in at the 8th pole, but then should have done some running in the stretch and quicken, but wasn't able to do that. Maybe in a smaller field size, heavy conditions, that one-paced grinding style might work with the right trip, but at a short price, why do you want to take it for a horse who, like you said, has some inability to quicken? If Trickery doesn't go in that race, we talked about the Belmont or the Saratoga Invitational Derby, the opportunity to run at Colonial Downs and the Secretariat's the other option. 3 stakes races at Colonial Downs on Saturday, the former Arlington Star races, the Secretariat, the Beverly D, and of course the Arlington Million have been rescheduled for Sunday at Colonial Downs, and that's where we will go next in our handicapping. We'll talk next about the Arlington Million run at Colonial Downs. I think this is the second or third year now that they've had it in Virginia. $1 million race, of course, as it was way back in 1980-81 when it was inaugurated. 1.25 miles on the turf for this race at Colonial Downs. They'll go start on the very top of the stretch stretch and then make one full lap around the expansive turf course there at Colonial Downs. We've got a field of 6 entered for this year's Arlington Million. Integration won the local prep by 6 on soft ground at Colonial Downs for Shug McGahee. Ancient Rome coming in from overseas. We've got Siegel in here coming off a second in a local race at Churchill Downs, a winner of the Louisville handicap as well. Nation's Pride for Charlie Appleby, expected to come from overseas. Highland Chief, Graham Motion's got that one entered, and Talk of the Nation rounds out the field for Todd Pletcher. So you look down the field of 6, it's Shug McGahee, Charlie Hills, Mike Maker, Charlie Appleby, Graham Motion, Todd Pletcher. That sure sounds like a turf route, and that's exactly what we've got. Not a deep field, but a good field of 6 in here that doesn't really have any fluff to it.
I would gamble on a race like this if I get 3-1 in Ancient Rome. He's a nice horse, son of Warfront, American-bred horse who did all of his running overseas, and his best race. I'm looking at his time form ratings; are very strong on his best day. He's won at a mile and a quarter, even though he's been running in group races at a mile. I think the stretch out and trip will be good. He's got enough tactical speed to lay close up, although in his most recent start, the summer mile at Ascot, he came from out of it. Dead last, he finished second, beaten only a half length, earned a powerful 118 time form number, which normally would make him one of the favorites for the race anyway. But I'm not looking at anything here that he has to really be afraid of. I mean, obviously, Nation's Pride is pretty good, but I just think that Ancient Rome, based on what I saw in his most recent race, which was very recent, actually, July 13th, he's going to come over here, stretch out to a distance I know he likes. He's got the style. He'll handle off ground or soft ground if he needs to. I just think Ancient Rome's the one, and again, based on his most recent race, which was very good against horses that are at least as good, if not better, than what he's facing here.
Let's go back and take a look at that summer mile from Ascot on July 13th. Ancient Rome, the runner-up.
Ulster showing in front, and Besto in second place. Beshtani tucked away behind those in third. On the right is Kudwan, the yellow and black colours, so beginning to make smooth progress. Behind this Royal Dubai, and then Ancient Rome, and then Sunny Liston. They have less than 2 furlongs to go. And Besto and Beshtani have gone past Bolster. Kudwan nearest to us. Here he delivers his challenge now. Ancient Rome from the back of the field is closing. Royal Dubai behind this, but it's Kudwan and Callum Shepherd showing in front here. Ancient Rome and Embesto second and third places, running towards the line. Kudwar in front, and he has just held on to win. Ancient Rome and Embesto very
good turn of foot there down the lane. We'll see what kind of closing kick over the mile and a quarter at Arlington, or at Arlington. Shame on Churchill Downs, I should say. Shame on me by calling it the Arlington, but shame on Churchill Downs is really the story when we talk about the Arlington Million now being run at Colonial Downs. But Ancient Rome, Jeff's top pick in that one. I want to remind you that we've got a $2 million or 2 million point hit and split coming up on the late pick 4 Saturday at Colonial Downs, races 9 through 12. Hit the late pick 4 when you play with First Bet and Express Bet. Be sure to opt into all the promos, and you will share 2 million first rewards points if you're able to hit that late pick 4, in addition to your pari-mutuel winnings. So those rewards points can be redeemed for cash vouchers in your wagering account. Can also be redeemed for handicapping products in the pro shop, swag, all kinds of things like that. So be sure to play the late pick 4 races 9 and 12 Saturday at I wanted to say Arlington again, at Colonial Downs for that hit and split. A little bit other news for you in terms of the Colonial races on Sunday. Sunday again for that hit and split. The Beverly D, Moira will go to Colonial. She got on the van this morning and is headed that way. She was cross-entered in the Grade 2 Canadian Stakes at Woodbine on Saturday. So Moira, last year's Horse of the Year and one of the top horses in Canada, or 2 years ago, I believe was Horse of the Year in Canada. She's on her way to Virginia as we speak and will be going to Colonial. So we talk about some horses in flux from Saratoga to Colonial. Also one who was cross-entered at Woodbine. Moira could be the big star to watch in the Beverly D Stakes. What else do we have going for you this weekend? Dan Patch Stakes tonight at Hoosier Park. If you're a harness fan, one of the big ones in the Midwest for the year. Al Samaglia has got his blog up already for the pick 4 sequence tonight at Hoosier Park. Be sure to take in the Dan Patch Stakes. It goes around the same time as the stakes, the graduation tonight at Del Mar. I think there's 3 stakes around the country, all in the 10 p.m. Eastern hours. So stay up late, enjoy it. The Phillies are on a West Coast road trip, so I've been up late every night this week watching Dodgers games, Diamondbacks games. So I'll be up checking out those races in the 10 o'clock hour. Hopefully you will too. First Bet and Express Bet. And also want to remind you, on Sunday, it's Ellis Park Derby Day, a good stakes card Sunday at Ellis Park. We've got a Bet 150, get 20 promotion Sunday with Express Bet and First Bet at Ellis Park. So if you bet $150 on the card, you get $20 back in wagering credits into your account. Scott Shapiro will have picks for you for Ellis Park posted Saturday for Sunday's races. Again, Ellis Park Derby Day on Sunday. A lot cooking, Jeff Siegel. Hopefully we can keep things dry from this point forward.
Hopefully. I mean, this was going to be a great weekend for grass horses, and I hope they get a chance to run, and I hope they can handle what surely will be wet ground. That's just what life is in the East this time of the year, as you know. We've had rain out here for 5 months. That's normal. So I'll go down to Del Mar and enjoy the racing by the beach and look at the great weather and figure out how to make some money down there. We'll have our best plays over on Express Bet every day for both Saratoga. I'm not sure about Saratoga. We'll have to check and see what that racing program is going to be like for Saturday and Sunday. But
you had a nice winner at the spa yesterday, right? $9 winner that you put out yesterday. So be sure to check those blogs out. Jeff had a good one for you at Saratoga. Man of many circuits and talents. Yeah,
I love Saratoga. I just, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and pass if you don't think you have a feel for it. So we'll look at the card, see if we can come up with something. But Del Mar, I'll dive in and have something for you on the weekend at Express Bet. So looking forward to a good weekend of racing, and hopefully we can make some money.
Tickets are now on sale for the California Crown. Be sure to check that out. Go to the Santa Anita website and get all the information for the California Crown coming up in September. And should be some huge races with Breeders' Cup and more implications there. And all the entertainment acts were announced this past weekend. So be sure to check that out. If you want to attend the California Crown, tickets now on sale. Check that out at santaanita.com. Jeff and I will return on Tuesday for our weekly It's Official podcast when we'll recap this weekend. We're going to be talking about great turf racing. Let's be optimistic about it and set the tone for some of these Breeders' Cup divisions. The Philly and Mare Turf, the Mile, maybe even the turf itself will give us some sense of who the players might be for the Breeders' Cup when we reconvene on Tuesday for the It's Official podcast. On behalf of everybody with First Bet and my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you Tuesday.